Hi, hello.
I'm Rohan.
Welcome to The Long Take. This week we're discussing the new Malayalam movie Aattam, which is directed by and written by Anand Ekarshi, which is their director debut feature, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, what do you make of this movie on?
I really liked it. Very, very, very impressed with this movie.
Okay. What is the most impressive aspect?
It's very I like that it sets itself up as like a kind of a whodunit, and then it kind of plays with those expectations and kind of reveals itself to be a way more ambitious kind of uh, project. It works on a meta level, right? It's about the Me Too movement. It's about the Me Too movement specifically in the film industry. Then it's about the Me Too movement specifically in the Malayalam film industry. Then it's also about how we as audiences have reacted to it, how stakeholders have reacted to it, how people, how perpetrators and survivors have kind of reacted to it. So it works on so many levels, and I thought that was very deftly done.
Yeah. Especially like the ambitious part, I agree on that. That every time you feel like the movie sort of like drawing to a conclusion, they're like, yeah, we have figured it out. This is the thing. What happened? We all agree on this as the cast members. And they're like, oh wait, but like just throw in like a bomb here. We're like, oh wait, new revelation. They're like, what?
Yeah. No, so
And then the movie starts again.
Yeah. So, I mean, it essentially kind of is set up as this 12 Angry Men situation where these guys
Yeah.
get together to investigate a sexual harassment case, right, in their theater troupe. And
Abuse.
yeah. And like halfway through, it kind of seems to be drawing to a conclusion. And then you're like, wait. Firstly, it's just, I know that half the movie is left. But secondly, it feels too good to be true. Like, how can people just come together and arrive at a consensus?
It's almost like misty idea. Like, wow, this society exists where like people agree and they're like, yes, we will fire this guy. We will like work through them, right? Yeah, like they've like had like at least 3 discussions they've had when they get to that point.
Yeah. But then the movie kind of throws, like you said, a bomb into the thing where the men suddenly have stake, right? Earlier they were like, oh, we just want to protect ourselves, right? We want to get this over with, and this feels like the right thing to do. So let's just do that. Because nobody really likes Hari also, so they don't really care. But then when that thing is introduced where essentially money and like a foreign trip is introduced.
It's like a carrot is dangled in front of them. They're like, it's the universe testing them. Now they're like, oh, you care about so much about like sexual abuse. You're being such like nice gentleman. What if I told you there was like rewards attached to keeping Hari? Now what would you?
Rewards attached to essentially bending your morals, right? Because this is like
Exactly,
a morality.
They're like exactly. Like how important are you on the stand? Like what is the worth of your stand?
Yeah. How much are you willing to personally kind of sacrifice for justice to prevail?
Yeah.
And the movie is like, absolutely not. Nobody cares. Not a single person cares about what is right when their personal interests are kind of at stake. And that I found to be very kind of a bold statement to make, right? Because of the 12, whatever, I lose count of the number of characters, but उसमें से एक बंदा would have been very easily to make an upstanding guy, right? Just to be like, in society, there is at least one person who's going to do the right thing. That's what we would like to hope, if anything. But in this movie, they're like, no, not a single person.
Even Madan, like, was supposedly like the neutral voice and like, who takes the charge from Vinay to be like, okay, I will ensure that we have a fruitful discussion. Even he's like, I understand your stances. And I'm like, what? What happened to you?
Yeah, so Madan is somebody I was always kind of suspicious of because he seemed like the kind of person who is not genuine about whatever he's doing, right?
Right.
But it's not that I was ever like convinced about any of the guys, right? There was this one person whose name I forget, like this they're all middle-aged, but there was this one person whose wife was there also, right? And
So
he's the kind of person, Sudhir, yeah. And he's the person who's always like, no, there is no argument about this.
He's always like, you must leave,
Yeah. And then I'm like, that's kind of suspicious. Like, why are you so intent on getting this guy kicked out? Are you hiding something? Which is, I suppose the movie wants you to also think, right? And
yeah, which like they've given us the breadcrumbs to even believe that because like we see how everyone's been behaving. People have asked for his key and they've asked for like, stuff like that beyond that. So you're like, it's possible that it's not Hari. when it starts, the college just starts happening like that.
I mean, this movie works as a whodunit very nicely because it, like you said, it lays all the breadcrumbs, right? It tells you that everybody is wearing the same perfume, so it's very easy for Anjali to be confused, right? And it has that scene where one person,
No, it's just deliberate, right? Like the perfume almost then becomes like a metaphor.
yeah, obviously, yeah. They're all, but that's the thing, right? The movie wants you to believe that it's this kind of mystery where people are trying to find out the identity of, or not even the identity, right? And initially, they are sure of who did it, so they just want to kind of get to the bottom of.
It's more of like just like showing, like it's reflecting society very well, right? It's like these situations are endlessly complex.
Yeah.
There's no right and wrong. There's no way to like properly discuss this. Like, how do you actually like, if you're not very, like, even if they end up with the police, not like the police is gonna like make some great like meal out of this. They will probably do the same thing that these guys are doing. Make past judgments on like how she was behaving, pass comments on like this group, vilify them, vilify each other. Like that same thing would happen just in a larger sense.
Yeah.
You know, the film is trying to like condense that and keep it to this group so that we can sort of see all of society's facets, but like played out within this sort of group.
Yeah, within this kind of environment, this closed environment, right?
Yeah.
Where you have someone who is a virtue signaler, right? You have someone who's skeptical. You have the victim shamer also. You have all those people.
Yeah. You have someone who's like has a financial like stake in not taking a side.
And all that is very impressive. It's also impressive that nobody bothers to kind of ask Anjali's, you know, or take her consent and shall we do this discussion? Should we get...
No one ever brings up that they are all men sitting in discussion of a sexual abuse case and like we're like that level of thinking, right? We're like, wait, are we even qualified to like pass judgment here?
Which is...
Because it starts from a place of like keeping the group harmonious.
Yeah. Which is the fun satire that this movie also does, is right? Because all these men are essentially putting themselves in a position where they're in charge of deciding for the woman, right? Which is something that we see so often in like real life also.
Again, and at the start, like it's in a way like the things that happen in the last part of the movie are a consequence of Vinay deciding early on everything for her, right? He's like, oh, why didn't you go to the police? Why did you put a Facebook post? None of these ideas are hers. She just was trying to like communicate what happened to her to someone who was very close to her, and he turned this into a whole thing about like he must be out of the group. Never did she actually ask Vinay, then, you know, should like Hari go?
She didn't want this to escalate at all initially, right? She's like, I'm still trying to come to terms with what happened. Like, I don't know what my feelings are, but this person thinks of himself, he's like a hero complex person.
Which is the other thing, right? Like when she steps in, not one person asks her, how are you doing? No one.
Everybody is...
See, दिमाग में आता भी नहीं है to ask her how you're doing. First question is directly like, will you reach a compromise? I'm like, are you kidding?
Yeah, nobody bothers to ask her. Nobody bothers. And it's just that this, like someone like Vinay, we've seen before in that movie Satyaprem Ki Katha, right? And it's just you can sense the difference in like just the sensibilities of whoever made that movie and Anand Ekarshi, right? That person was convinced that the Karthikeyan character in that movie was the hero till the very end. And here, Aattam is kind of telling you from the very beginning that, hey, this person feels like the hero, but he really isn't. And then that kind of point they drive home right towards the end where she laughs in his face and you're like, oh my God, this poor woman has been betrayed by someone she felt really close and connected to.
Because he's just like concerned, I think, more about like solving the issue for her rather than, you know, like...
Or for himself. No, he wants to feel better about himself.
Yeah, that's the main goal of like, you know, like so that he can like help her and he can sort of in a way help himself and be like, oh yeah, I did something.
I'm the good one here, you know, I'm doing the right thing and I feel better now. I feel like a better person because I've been I'm sure like he knows how poorly he's treated her, right? He keeps denying the relationship. He keeps not acknowledging it.
That's when like in a way like her laugh is going back to, right? Because at one point in the room, he's just like, why would I want a relationship with this kind of woman? And I'm just like, what? Like it just everything just like gets destroyed in that moment. It's just like you also like, right? You also have come to a point of saying everything what everyone else was saying, right? Like, because one person was like, she was drinking too much. One person was like, yeah, she is like, doesn't like dress very appropriately. Like, you've turned into the same person. The person apparently like closest to her, who apparently like cares so much about her that he's like, you know, trying to fight for her, but isn't really trying to fight for her. Like, you just he throws her under the bus like so easily at that moment.
No, but like I'm wondering how this movie will play for different audiences, because I'm watching it and all these revelations that happen, right? All these people, they get...
There was definitely a moment in that like final kind of confrontation around that dining table where like she's there and people are doubting and casting doubt on her story in like at least 7 different ways. Because every like 1 minute, like now it's like, oh, this photo. Now it's like, oh wait, you were lying. Now it's like, oh no, you were doing this. And I was like, oh my God, like, is it in a way, like, is this a problem? Like, sure, we're discussing like the Me Too movement and all its like, warts and glories or whatever. But like, is it going to be at some point someone's going to be like, oh, you saw Aattam, like, like this is what happens in real life also. Women do stuff like this.
I mean, not so much that, but I'm wondering if, I mean, obviously in the first half, it's in their best interest to sweep this under the rug, which is what they do, right? In the second half, it's in their best interest to not allow this to escalate because they want to go on that Europe trip. So basically, they'll take whatever like little thing is dangled in front of them and latch onto it and be like, no, but here's what we want to do, and it's like just confirming what we already know, right?
Which is like how society behaves, right? It's like keep everything like within. Stage level, be like, what's that documentary like? Have you seen the 2 Killer Tiger?
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah, so that documentary is exactly the same thing, but obviously played out in a very much different scale, much different like socio-economic background. But it's the same thing where like, like a young like child is raped in that movie, but like gang raped on, and the entire like movie, in fact, or the entire documentary, sorry, is just like, how can we keep this within the village and how can we reach a compromise? Say, like literally for 2 hours, literally the same thing happens.
I thought that movie was about a tiger or something. God damn.
No. No.
I'm not watching that. Anyway.
Yeah, it's really good.
So here, what was I saying? Yeah, I was saying, so here whatever the, the new kind of plot mechanics that they introduce in this movie, I'm kind of anticipating it, right? So when things are going on track, I'm like, no, but things have to kind of derail as well, right? When Vinay is projected as this person who is so devoted to Anjali and doing the right thing for her, I'm like, no, but you're not being genuine, right? So at some point,
she has to drop, like, because after one you also know it, because then you have like parallel scenes, like Vinay and Anjali are at like that friend's house. These people have gotten to know information which they don't have, so there's going to be chaos when they do come together.
It all comes to a head right at the end, right? The story is actually about something else entirely, right? Which is that it doesn't matter who was the perpetrator of the crime, right?
Which I think is the movie's strongest point, is that, like, instead of making it actually a whodunit and finding a culprit, like the culprit is
everybody.
Hello, society.
Yeah. We're all culprits, and including the people who kind of tried to brush it under the rug. And the movie is very kind of strong-willed about this. It's not like, no, but one person actually did it and the other person was just complicit in it. It's like, no, all of you are equally guilty if you are complicit also.
So at one point, like, the movie even like goes there, right? It starts asking that question. They're like, we're artists, how could we not reform the person? He was in our group, how could we not see it coming? Like, we should notice something about him.
And then the movie does that thing that is kind of becoming typical of Malayalam movies of this kind, which is that it drives home the point that it's trying to make in this kind of epilogue situation, which happened in like the Great Indian Kitchen also. And here it becomes a little too literal, where she's, makes this play about her experiences, and basically everybody is just circling her, all the predatory men, and they all look the same because they're wearing masks. And I'm like, mujhe samajh aa gaya tha, but if you want to
there were 2 things which like sort of irked me towards like in the last 20 minutes. Is the first, I think, was the trick itself, right? The fact that this Hari dude was playing a prank on Madan, and that was just the whole thing was a trick. Like that in a way feels like a trick on the audience as well, right? Not just a prank played
fine
the characters,
but it's
the audience as well.
I know, but I feel that's the point, right? Because the audience is, in many ways, the movie is pointing fingers at us also, right? And it's putting us in the position of the guys because it wants us to think like they would in this situation.
But the reason it felt like a trick to me is because I had a hard time grasping or believing the first time it's happened. I'm like, why is like some foreigners from somewhere so interested in a Malayalam play? And like, like they wanted them to tour like countries where there are barely any Malayalis. Like, what is happening here? It's like, I had such a hard time convincing myself. I'm like, okay, Akhil, buy it. It's possible. Like maybe they're changing the way of the play. We'll do subtitles, but like maybe clearly the play is like focused, because they don't even show us the play that much, right? Like, we get like a so little of the play in the beginning. Is that I had a very tough time like actually buying into that this is actually a genuine offer, which we were discussing for so long.
Oh no, fortunately I never was distracted by those doubts. So I just bought it. I was like, fine,
So
of
it's
course.
like, felt a trick to me towards the end when like they pull the rug and they're like, oh wait, this is actually the prank. I'm like, this feels very like jokey now.
Oh, no. So for me, it felt like this kind of grand, kind of dramatic irony, right? Where you're like, oh, of course, how tragic. Like something as stupid as this kind of is impacting such a huge kind of.
Well, on a thematic level, it's perfect, right? Which we already discussed is that like because they wonder like the movie also and like in a way kind of question and like just like in a way question our moral as well, like of like how much are your like values worth? So that's amazing. But like the way it's done felt a little inorganic and unconvincing for me. And the second thing I was mentioning there is that what you just mentioned, right? The reframing of the situation and letting her sort of stage display about what basically the movie has been. On one level, it felt like a little like, Killers of the Flower Moon type, what Scorsese did. But on another level, the issue I had with it, I was like, wait, no, this is actually so strong in terms of like the reframing you've done that I felt like it felt inauthentic on a level of saying that I would say Anjali is not there in the movie. Like, sure, it's been discussing about her, but for like a vast runtime of it or a vast portion of the runtime, she's not really central. Like her own voice is not central, right? Like she's being discussed, but like in a third person way. So then to end the movie and reframe it as this like feminist PN about like this is what women are going through, and then give her the spotlight at the end felt a little inauthentic on the level of like saying that, oh, this is Anjali's movie now, and I'm like, but it wasn't Anjali's movie for most.
But isn't that the point of the movie? See, I'll tell you
No, but I would say then if if the movie is framed to the point of like erase the movie and the entire movie is just done through Anjali's POV and this stage play shown at the beginning, is that a
no. So here's my reading of it, right? The simple distinction is that the point the movie wants to make is that a lot of decisions about women are made by men, right? And obviously that is wrong,
right?
But that is the point that the movie is trying to make by literally putting 12 men in a room together and having them discuss the fate of, discuss what happened to a woman without involving her in any way. So I feel that if that is the point that you're trying to make, then there's no way to center the woman in that narrative. Secondly,
yeah, which I completely get, but what I'm trying to
secondly,
like, I guess, I'm arguing beyond the movie. But yeah,
secondly, we know that the movie knows that this is wrong, right? That these people should not be making these decisions on behalf of her, right? We know the movie knows that this is wrong, which is why it kind of snatches the narrative away from them and hands it over to the person who's rightfully responsible for it, right?
Right.
Now, in contrast, you have something like Satyaprem Ki Katha, where the dude is similar to this, is leading the narrative, but unlike this movie, he's being projected as the hero. Now that is the issue.
Yeah, and they don't even realize it, like as we discussed earlier, because the hero there is literally given like the voiceover the entire movie. He is the one dictating like.
So that is more. I think what the criticism that you're making of this is more applicable to that because the movie does not realize that it's wrong.
No, but I think the sort of the realization, like what I was coming to after I saw that, I was like, if I see like this is almost like beyond the movie in a sense, but I'm saying if I see like this movie without that final scene, and then I actually see the stage play in real life of this depiction of her story of what happened to her, emotionally, which one would have hit me harder?
I feel this really worked for me. It worked in a way better than Killers of the Flower Moon because even in Killers of the Flower Moon, I did not get the sense that Scorsese is trying to suggest that this is Lily Gladstone's movie, right? It felt like a two-hander. And it felt like he was very, very kind of patient with Leonardo DiCaprio's character, right? So in the end, when he's kind of gazing inwards and saying here, like, I don't understand what my role is in this, but it probably isn't very impressive. That felt a little like, but you made the entire movie being sitting on the fence, right? Here,
right,
the movie is very clear about what its statements are, right? It's saying that this is absolutely wrong. This is almost borderline farcical.
And also, like, you end up making the movie about yourself at the end, right? That's what he does. The filmmaker steps in and is like almost like a reframe the story in his own sort of.
Which I'm fine also because he's not. It's not like he's saying कि मैं तो बहुत महान हूँ. Look at me, you know. He's
no, that's not what. But I'm saying, like, on one level, it does take away from the story because you've jumped centuries and like are sort of talking about like my place in this universe.
Yeah, which is fine. Which felt like the most honest moment of that film for me, right? Which is when I was like locked in. I was like, oh, like we right now we're watching something so vulnerable and honest, right? Which is what we want from most movies. And similarly here, this is an angrier movie in many ways, right? It's even angrier than Killers of the Flower Moon, because there's like a sense of outrage about it, because it feels a little more immediate also, given the kind of real life context. And being a Malayalam industry movie, we know what happened to Dilip, right? And there is no coincidence that the Hari character looks like a spitting image of Dilip, like the actor. So
and the movie still broad enough at the same time to like apply it to other female artists in like across the industry.
yeah. So wait, like this is what I began by saying, right? It works as like this locked room mystery. It works as this more ambitious than usual locked room mystery, but then it also works as this meta commentary on just like the industry and how people have reacted, how you and I have reacted, how guilty we are. You know, it gives you a lot to kind of chew on, which is rare for most movies, not just Indian movies.
I mean, yeah, like most of Indian movies don't even want to acknowledge the reality of the country we live in. So that by itself, that bar is set so low.
But this is not even a case of the bar is so low, so that is why I appreciate it. No, I would have appreciated this anyway. This is a good movie. Like, it has nothing to do with like, yeah, we're surrounded by mediocrity or whatever. This is pure and simple a good movie, and like almost I don't really have any notes, so it's like well done.
No better time to finish the podcast there.
Yep.
Okay, that's all for this episode of The Long Take. You can follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and threads at The Long Take Pod. You can write to us at thelongtakepod@gmail.com. Please give us a rating and a review per episode, and we will see you next week. Thanks for listening.